Welcome back to A Guy in a Suit Explains Stuff. Today we're going to be talking about cell signaling. As a concept, cell signaling is pretty easy. Cells communicate. It's shocking! The specifics of cell signaling are kind of hard. There's an entire class at UNH called Cell Hell, and they literally spend hours and hours each day studying every little detail about the cell. Local signaling is pretty easy. You got a bunch of different types. It's mainly called paracrine signaling, and this can be expressed in a bunch of different ways. You got instances right here, you got really close cells. You could have gap junctions in animal cells or plasmodesmata in plant cells. Regardless, the hormone secreted by the main cell goes and travels around and gets to the recipient cells. That's where they can actually start doing whatever processes need to be exhibited. This is a pretty easy concept to grasp. It's all about hormone transfers and hormone creations by one cell. When you get a little bit more deep into it, you learn about how those hormones are created in the cell and they're transported through vesicles out to the outside of the cell. If it's in gap junctions, they cross the bridge pretty quickly, but if it's in more human bodies, you notice if we ever have to take antibiotics or steroids, those all go through our bloodstream and they all go throughout the entire body. The second type of signaling you'll talk about is long distance. This is what is known as synaptic. And the main principle is that electrochemical messages are transmitted via neurotransmitters across cells. And this can be most easily seen in neurons because that's how they work. So here you have a cell. And this is how we're going to illustrate the types of reception of the signals. So the first thing that happens is that the signal, the hormone, whatever happens, it has to combine with a receptor. So there's a bunch of different types here that will each do different things, but there's only one that's going to fit. So it's going to fit and then it's going to elicit a little response. This is where we move from reception into transduction. Transduction's a little bit different. That's where it takes the signal and it's converted into something that the cell can register and can act upon. So this could be a couple different things. Regardless, it might use some form of ATP energy, or it might start converting things into a different form. It might release something. That's where we go into the final stage of the reception process, which is the response. This is pretty simple. It's just it takes that message, or it takes the plans, takes the signal, and then it acts upon them. It brings about cellular change somehow. Maybe it has to release food or make food or do something along those lines.
Hey kid, you want some drugs?
Yeah, it goes against everything I've been taught, but I guess I'll take some amphetamines.
Got it.
I'm showing it too.
Any third grader in the United States can tell you drugs are bad, drugs are terrible, don't do drugs. But we don't really paint much of a picture as to why that is. So using the same cell, we can re-illustrate why drugs are bad. It's basically the same thing. You take hormones, you connect them to the receptors, and those elicit responses in the cell. If you overflow on these receptors, it makes too many reactions inside the cell. Cells can burst, cells can release acids inside of themselves, and ecstasy, amphetamines, they shoot holes in the brain because they overload some of the neuron cells so much that they blow the neurotransmitters out of proportion, and in effect they blow up part of those brain cells. That's why you have such severe mental problems with recovering ecstasy and amphetamine addicts. It's a terrible world, but it's one that the entire populace needs to be educated on.
Signaling, 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 signaling. Signals come from the membrane. Neurotransmitters do the signaling. Reception, transduction, responding. These are the steps of signaling. Amphetamines mess up the signaling. Signaling, signaling, signaling. Signaling, 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 signaling. Signals come from the membrane. Neurotransmitters do the signaling. Reception, transduction, responding. These are the steps of signaling. Amphetamines mess up the signaling. Signaling, signaling, signaling. Peregrine means cells secrete hormones. Info in their chromosomes. Target cells to get a response. Make more messages to get across. Synaptic signals are long distance. Electrical messages in an instant. By neurotransmitters, I mean dopamine. Can be overpowered by amphetamines. Those can be smoked in cigarettes or snorted like crystal meth. Two types of SCP pathways. One is phosphorylation cascade. It's a phosphate that has energy, makes chemical eventually. Protein modification is type 2, makes protein chain. Woohoo! Signaling, 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 signaling. Signals come from the membrane. Neurotransmitters do the signaling. Reception, transduction, responding. These are the steps of signaling. Amphetamines mess up the signaling. Signaling, signaling, signaling. Signaling, 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 signaling. Signals come from the membrane. Neurotransmitters do the signaling. Reception, transduction, responding. These are the steps of signaling. Amphetamines mess up the signaling. Signaling, signaling, signaling.